All right, I know we're up against the Atlanta Hawks opening home game. They're playing the Mavericks, so this is a big lottery game. This will be a big one by the end of the year, so we're going to move through this. Tixie's already laughing. All right, my name is Jim Fox. I'm going to go through a few things. I do want to acknowledge a few people that are here, some politicians, former politicians. Bucky's not paying any attention in the back, but we do acknowledge the former mayor, Bucky Johnson, thankfully not going all Hasselhoff on us tonight. So, you had to be at this morning's PDC to really get that. I do see some, there's at least two current council members here, Dan and Andrew. I think those are the only two. Oh, Josh is here. Josh slipped in. Okay, great. Pierre is also here as a former councilman. Any other dignitaries? I know Beth Moore is here. She's running for something? State House. I know she's running for something. I know. State House. Great. Any other previous or current or wannabe politicians in the room? And I mean wannabe like you are making an effort to be that way, not like me standing up and posting a debate. So, here we go. Should be able to read this. This debate, as in past years, has been sponsored by the Norcross Progressive Development Committee, known as the PDC. Weekly meetings of the PDC are Wednesday mornings at 8:15 and 45 South. My name is Jim Fox. As one of the prior hosts of the weekly PDC meetings, I've been asked to organize and moderate this debate, which is a good sign since I moderated last year. In the spirit of transparency, you should know that I spend a lot of time in Norcross. I've owned and operated a number of businesses in the city. I volunteered many hours to support the events, schools, and charities in the city, but I am not, and have never been, an actual citizen of the city of Norcross. Would like to take this opportunity to thank Kate Kitchen, Andy Lazaro, Cameron McDonald. Some folks are behind the scenes here, Stephen Shepard, and everyone in the city who has helped us to organize and present this important event. Thanks also go out to the team at Accent Creative Group, that gentleman, that millennial on his phone in the corner, I believe he's from Accent, for taking care of the video recording and posting of the debate. Bucky has his hand up.
You're an honorary citizen.
I am an honorary citizen. I actually have my paperwork with me here. Thank you. Good point. I was made an honorary citizen of Norcross by the mayor. Probably the fourth most important thing that he did. How long did you serve? I would also, this is going to get serious. I would also like to thank John Outler, who has agreed to take on the tedious but also important job of timekeeping this evening. We hope to have you out of here in less than 90 minutes, even closer to 60. And of course, I would like to thank the two candidates who are running for the one contested city council position. Just to clarify, there are actually 3 seats being presented to the voters this year. Andrew Hickson and Josh Fair, both incumbents, are running unopposed. I am looking forward to an evening of thought-provoking insights and good sportsmanship, and we'll introduce the candidates to you in a few moments. As I mentioned, tonight's debate is being video recorded and will be posted on the city's website for you and others to watch at your leisure. Look for information on that in upcoming city emails and communications. But first, I would like to go over some of the ground rules for tonight's debate. For your information, the bulk of tonight's format was crafted from information gathered from the Commission on Presidential Debates, the League of Women Voters, and the nonprofit Voter Engagement Network. I reached out to the candidates and asked them what 3 topics they would like to have covered this evening. I've crafted a number of questions around those topics. This means that each candidate will have a chance to address their primary areas of interest, as well as their opponents, of course. These questions have only been shared with one person, not a resident of the city, and only for the purpose of proofreading and light editing. In addition, I received a number of questions submitted by residents. Many of their questions will be interspersed throughout the evening. Most of them have been edited for clarity, objectivity, and brevity. I have not shared these questions with candidates, although there is a chance that the resident may have shared that question with them or others. I believe that we have more than enough questions to fill the time we have this evening. Each candidate will have 4 minutes for an opening statement. The sequence of the opening and closing statements was determined by coin toss earlier this morning at the PDC meeting. Questions will be asked in an alternating format that will give each candidate an equal opportunity to go first. The candidates will have 90 seconds to answer each question. If a candidate mentions the other candidate by name, or even close enough so that I know who they're talking about, the other candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. Once we've completed the questions, each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. The distinguished Mr. Outler will hold up a sign when the candidate has 20 seconds to complete the statement or answer, and a bell will ring. Better than that, I believe, when the time is up. That's a little better. He's going to practice that while he's new at this job. Before John came to the Institute, he could barely pick up a pen. Once we've completed the question, I already talked about that. The candidate may complete his or her current sentence once that bell rings, but will not be permitted to start another sentence at that time. Run-on sentences based on my determination may be cut short. Crosstalk or talking when another candidate has the floor is not permitted. A candidate may request the floor from the moderator, me, but the moderator, me again, is not obliged to grant it. And now for the ground rules for the audience. Please keep in mind that this is not a rally for voters who have already made up their minds, but a nonpartisan meeting for those who have not. We understand that many of you may have strong feelings about this election, but others have come here tonight to help them decide how to vote. Please let us use our time for discussion of the issues, and in that spirit, we ask you to refrain from applause or making any noises or statements during the debate. You are permitted to applaud at the end of each candidate's closing statement, if you wish. Now is the perfect time to ask everyone to silence all cell phones or other noise-producing devices. If something in your possession makes a sound that interferes with others being able to hear the debate, even for a very short time, you will be asked to leave this room. So I will repeat, this is the time to silence all cell phones and other noise-producing devices. Also, nothing of a partisan nature, including but not limited to buttons, hats, or signage is permitted this evening. If you're displaying anything along those lines, please remove or hide it. I see one gentleman supporting the state of Vermont. I don't find that controversial right now. But keep your arms crossed to cover. Any questions? Good. It is now my honor and privilege to introduce two candidates who are running for the single contested city council position in the city of Norcross, incumbent David McLeroy and challenger Elaine Puckett. Based on the coin toss this morning, which was won by the visiting team, Elaine, she chose to receive the kickoff. David will start with the opening statement, followed by Elaine.
Big crowd. National Bologna Day, they said this morning, PDC. Here we go, man. Perfect day. Should I stand or sit?
Sitting is fine, that's how they do it. Make sure that. Go ahead.
My name is David Benjamin McLeroy. I'm running for Councilman Norcross City Council. I've been a councilman for 16 years. I turned 56 yesterday, so I realized that I was on council when I was 40 years old. That's a long time. 16 years doesn't sound a long time, but when you say 40 years old, 56 years old, that's a long time. I was raised in Norcross, went to elementary school, middle school, high school. Been married to my wife Michelle for 25 years, so our anniversary. 2 daughters, 24 twins that were raised in Norcross. Now we're raising our grandkids, as most people are doing, in Norcross. I've got Holly, he's 4 years old. I call him Flex, he calls me Dude. We're at the park every other day. If you follow me on Facebook or Michelle, you see plenty of Flex stories. I've got a new granddaughter, a year old. Her name's Haley. I call her Princess. So we're in Norcross for the long haul. I've been, this is my ninth election, or my ninth term coming up. I've been challenged 4 times, including at the start. In addition to that, I lost one election. Where's Craig Newton?
He's here.
I saw him. There he is. Craig beat me, man. Craig kicked my butt the first time I ran for office. But we became friends. I learned a lot from Craig and I appreciate it. So I lost that election. But since I've been on the council, I've been challenged now 4 out of 9 times. So I like the 2-year terms. It's like a 2-year term limit to me. If you don't like me, come talk to me. All right, I've served with 16 elected officials in 16 years, so we've had some come and go, some good experiences, and I've enjoyed it, worked well with most of them. One of my greatest accomplishments is the purchase and acquisition and expansion of parks and green space. I was pretty much, when I got elected, that was my main goal, save the trees. I really wanted to work more on Buford Highway, but I couldn't fight off the developers, so we lost a lot of trees and green land on Buford Highway, but we gained some in some more critical areas. My two goals in Norcross are keep it clean, keep it safe. I've said that for 16 years, and that's, I think, been a nice accomplishment. We've got one of the best police departments in Gwinnett County. We've got a 50-man police force for 15 square miles. We've got an average of 2.5 minute response time. So we're in one of the cleanest, safest communities in Georgia, and I'm proud of that. My goals for the next 2 years, I'm hoping to get reelected because we're in the middle of redeveloping Buford Highway with the new development down here. And once that takes hold, I'm hoping it will create a domino effect, and we'll go, lateral, vertical, horizontal, in all directions from that nucleus, and redevelop Buford Highway, take it back, continue down Mitchell Street, Mitchell Road, and really make Norcross a more desirable place to live. I've got, to my credit, about 150 hours of Gwinnett, Georgia Municipal Association training. I'll try to take most of the law classes, but every now and then those are full, or something I've taken, so I do other, but I'm pretty well versed on city and state law and how to handle those situations. I also travel to nationally to cities. I don't do that too often. I've probably done it 5 or 6 times, maybe 8 or 10 times over the last 16 years. We do spring in Washington, D.C., where we go talk to our legislators. And we have classes where we're educated again on law and things of that nature. And then once a year in November, we go to a hosting city. This year's in Los Angeles. It's actually on November the 6th, which is election day, so I think I'm going to end up canceling that one. With that said, I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Elaine, opening statement?
Sure. My husband Richard and I have lived in Norcross for about 14 years now, and one of the things that I'm fond of saying is that we really chose a town before we chose a home. We had always thought that we might move closer into the city when our children grew up and left home, but once we found Norcross, it became important to us to try to find a piece of property here because we loved the feel of the community. And that was at that time. There's so many ways that we've improved upon and built upon that in the intervening years. I personally have a deep appreciation for the things that our community offers. I would list among those as priorities the parks and green space that we enjoy, the idea that we are concerned for sustainability and our environment, the entertainment and cultural opportunities that we have, along with the educational events that work hard to provide. I feel like we have good community support for quality schools in our area. And one of the things that I particularly value is the diverse population that we have. And that is racially and ethnically, but it's also becoming more and more diverse in terms of age demographics. And I'm really glad to see that happening. I believe we have active volunteerism and community spirit that I would hope to build on. And I appreciate that there's a culture of support for aging in place as residents of the community get older. All of these, I think, come together to create what, for us, is what we call our place to imagine. So that you can know me a bit better, my work in the world for the last 30 years has been as United Methodist clergy, which may seem on the surface to be a real disconnect with politics and public office and government. But I believe there are some real transferable skills that will be of value if I'm elected to the council. One, as an organizational leader, I've served as a quasi-CEO for a diverse group of people, most of whom are volunteers, some of whom sometimes disagree with one another, and all of whom share some common goals and values. I bring to the table, I believe, an appreciation for sound financial policies and management, for I bring experience in terms of being able to evaluate staff, The ability to grasp details while at the same time holding in view the larger, more strategic picture, and a commitment to careful listening, which I think is important in terms of how the council listens to one another, in terms of how the council listens to the city employees that we work with, and in terms of how we listen to citizens and can share that input across all of those groups. As part of my work, I have received training in conflict management, in change management, and in organizational development, all of which I believe will be able to be effectively employed here in the city. As a council member, I want to say I would be committed to being present and prepared, to supporting policies that lead to smart growth, the kind of growth that can help us continue to move forward without losing our hometown feel that we all value so much. I commit to a careful review of all of the items that come before the council, including the impact on the budget and on the quality of life of the citizens. And I commit to moving forward in timely ways when it's necessary to make our best decisions.
Thank you. We have a total of 18 questions this evening. I expect to get them all. They are not in any particular order. I will let you know which candidate answers the question first. And the first question will be directed to Elaine. Both candidates will answer every question. The first question is, the recent losses of some of the larger businesses has put some pressure on city revenues. Do you support raising the millage rate to increase revenue, or would you look to other revenue-generating options, be specific please, and/or cutting services?
I think that anytime you have to deal with a budget, you have to look at what you're going to solve on the income side and what you're going to solve on the expense side. And so I wouldn't want to rush too quickly to say we need a millage increase. I would want us to look at other funding streams that we have, funds that are available to us through some of the utility, hotel and motel taxes, the things like SPLOST money that can maybe offset some items in the budget that allow us to then free money for operating expenses. I would need to see the specifics of the budget before I would want to say blindly we need to solve it this way or we need to solve it that way. I think what's important is to balance income with being careful about our expenditures so that we're responsible.
I will say that if any candidate needs the question read again, I'm happy to do that. David?
Thank you. With my experience, I don't believe that the loss of one or two or three large businesses is going to cripple us and put us in a decision or mind-boggling situation where we have to hurry up and increase our millage rate or cut jobs or cut services. We budget about a year, and when these businesses leave, we know they're leaving, and we have time to prepare for that when it does come to budget. I'm not against millage increases. I always look at the millage as, are we cutting services or adding services? Are we maintaining? Or are we decreasing employees and services? So it's kind of a balance in that. To me, I just don't like decreasing the millage rate. I wouldn't necessarily increase it to cover some losses that I don't think would have that big of an effect, but we can find money in other areas. We can find money from prior year's reserves. We have an electrical fund that produces, over $1 million a year. We have a sanitation fund that produces. So we have other funds other than tax and as income, and we have quite a few funds. So I don't think that would be critical. It would not cripple us, and I don't think there would be a need to really raise or cut anything. Thank you.
David, you get to answer the second question first. Please describe with as much detail as possible what the term balanced growth and development for Norcross means to you.
The word balanced growth, to me, sounds kind of like slow to medium growth instead of progressive or regressive. So it's kind of like an average in the middle.
Okay.
So to me, balanced average would be, some growth but not going all in. I guess a better term that I like to use is called control growth. And so that's what it means to me, control growth, when we look at each issue, each rezoning, each one that comes along, one at a time, and we determine that. So we're controlling it, we're not going forward, we're not in a stalemate, but we're doing a controlled growth. Thank you.
Elaine?
When I think about balanced growth, what I think about first is the fact that no organization gets to stand still, and the city is no different from that. We do have to have ongoing growth and development, or we're going to find that we begin to decline. And so what's important to me is to zero in on the projects and the growth that is right for Norcross, that fits our long-term plan, our comprehensive plan, that also fits our shorter-term strategic goals, and to work on doing that in a way that is responsible, knowing that it is necessary for us to be able to sustain growth. I care about our businesses being able to have adequate traffic to support them. I know that some of our younger Norcross citizens are interested in some expansion of that and maybe some entrepreneurial opportunities for business and small business. And those are the kinds of things, in addition to residential growth, that I think would be important if we're going to be responsible with growth.
Thank you. Elaine, you get to answer question number 3 first. In what ways do you see our city capitalizing on the asset of its diverse population, and what areas do you see room for improvement?
I think that we've capitalized on the diversity with some of the things that we've begun to have, like the festivals in the park, things that key in on particular groups of people. But I think for any group, it's important, if we're really going to be community together, for us to find ways to be together that allow us to really get to know one another. It's a good thing to experience one another's culture. It's a good thing to have an opportunity to put in a toe, but I would hope that we would work hard to overcome whatever kinds of fears and anxieties we have and be able to move in ways that let us actually know one another's names and faces, not just in the community of people that we're most familiar with, but with all of the Norcross population. Because I believe our boats go up together, and what we have is much more safe and secure and prosperous when we all know one another.
David?
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. In what ways do you see our city capitalizing on the asset of its diverse population, and in what areas do you see room for improvement?
All right. As far as capitalizing in diversity, now diversity is not just skin color, obviously. Diversity is age group, it's education and background. There's a whole lot of, there's a big definition for diversity. Where are we capitalizing on it? Like Elaine said, we're having the events and the festivals. I think we have so many welcoming committees for diverse. We do most things that we do in flyers and print are bilingual or bilanguage. So we're very fortunate. I believe we had, at one time, I may be wrong, in the schools, 25 to 50 different languages. It sounds pretty diverse to me. I like it. It sounds like an awesome thing. Sounds like an asset, not a liability. As far as where could we improve, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you force diversity on people. I mean, you can't. But you can have programs. We can build parks. Little Web's been a great asset for Norcross. It's brought in so many diverse cultural, age, everything. And the events, the concerts have brought in people. So things like that we can do. But there will come a time. Age diversity is a problem we have in Norcross that we really need to work on. I think apartments might be part of that solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I will state at this point that Norcross is the only city that I know of, Georgia, that has a Buddhist host their mayoral debate, or city council debate. Thank you very much. David, you get to answer the, a lot of people didn't know that. I'm getting the 20-second sign now. Tough crowd here, I'm telling you. David, next question. What is your definition of affordable housing? And do you feel that there needs to be more affordable housing in Norcross?
Well, there's another diversity question. Yes, there needs to be more affordable housing. Norcross, in my opinion, is turning into a retirement community. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm staying here. I'm glad to be here. But we need a more diverse, more affordable housing, younger crowd coming in behind us. We're going to die out if we stay with this retirement community attitude or mentality. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need that, and we just need to push forward. And the affordable housing, you said what is my definition of affordable? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you talking about price range?
Oh, if that's what helps in your mind,
It's
sure.
a hotel. I don't want to bring that up as a negative, but there are people that have to live there, and that's affordable housing. And we maintain, we've trying to get rid of some of the bad elements there and bringing in good elements. You see the kids getting home off school buses. So, we're working with that. But affordable housing, I think we need some loft apartments in Norcross. I think we need loft condos in Norcross. We need stuff that these 30 and 40 years old have. I've got 24-year-olds at home that can't find a place to live in Norcross. There's just not anywhere. So yeah, we need some affordable loft apartments. Would be nice. Thank you.
Elaine?
I think affordable housing varies with who it is that's looking for a home. I know that my grandchildren have a difficult time finding an apartment that they can afford unless they have a roommate or unless they're married. And then you can take it on up from there. First-time home buyers that are looking for a way to get into a market, but they can't necessarily buy into a market at top dollar. I know some of our younger Norcross citizens have spoken about their desire to see more of the property that might be affordable move from absent landlords into saleability and viability for younger families that are looking to start out here. And I do think the apartments and townhomes and things like that are a necessary part of that. I also know that we have some public housing that we have for people who really do have a very difficult time finding a way to keep a roof over their head. And it's important for everybody to be able to find a way to live together and to live together affordably. I think code enforcement does a great deal to make that something that is not detrimental to the community and to the ethos of Norcross. And if we can put those things together, then I think we can do a better job of housing folks.
Elaine, this question is initially for you. SPLOST funding has become more and more prevalent over recent years. Give us some ideas as to how you feel SPLOST funds should be utilized within the necessary guidelines, of course.
Well, I think that what we've done with the SPLOST funds in terms of the parks and the improvements that we've been able to make have been excellent. I think that the SPLOST money, when we vote a new SPLOST, comes with some areas of definition where it can be used and where it can't be used. And I think Norcross has done a very good job of finding ways to capitalize on that and continue to build on that. I think it's a place where some of our quality of life issues, where some of our transportation, property, and traffic issues might be able to find a home. Whatever it is that is approved, I think we've done a good job of using that, with particularly the parks.
David?
Sure. SPLOST, special purpose local option sales tax. For those of you who don't know, so Gwinnett County, we vote on that every 3 or 4 years, and when we get a percentage of that, lose 1.5% from Gwinnett County, which comes in, and we can spend that on certain projects, and we have to name those projects ahead of time. It's usually going to be parking, or parking decks, or parks. Those are usually what we go for. So if we've got SPLOST dollars, they're great. We use them, again, building parks. We can't use them to maintain parks, so we've got a balance in that right there. Terry Louis is always letting us know that you can build parks, but you've got to maintain them. He's correct. So most SPLOST dollars, how they should be utilized is, again, parking and improvements in parks, and that's what they let us do with them, and that's what we do, and it works out really good for all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, this question was initially for David. Please tell us where your city council position, assuming you win, fits into your overall schedule in relation to other priorities, and give us a sense of what portion of your time, say over an average week, you feel will be committed to city council meetings, research, and other council commitments.
Man, I almost have to stand up for that question. I've got my boatload of folks. I run my own business. I've got the family, the grandkids. I've got mom and that I take care of. I've got a farm down in Macon that I try to take care of. And then I've got the city council, which is great. I'm a big sports fan, so I do a lot of sports games. I'm a big fisherman and hunter, and I try to squeeze that in. But the city council, second to family only, I do try to commit, time for. When we first started on the city council, it was a mayor form of government. So we had the mayor and we had the councilman. Every councilman was over a department and a head of a department and a sub-department. So we were having, if I was over the police, I was meeting with the police 2-3 times a week. We're running budget, we're running numbers on Monday, what are you going to do this week? On Friday, what did you get done this week? Next Monday, what are you going to do this week? It was a lot of time. We went to the city manager form of government, which is the best thing we've ever done. So now we have meetings, we've cut them down to about twice a month, and so they're lengthy now. We start at 6:30, sometimes we end at 10:30, 11:30, 12 o'clock. But as far as the meetings, that's a commitment there. As far as spending time, reading agendas, and preparing for the meetings, I can pick up an agenda and pretty much read it, fairly quick, so I don't spend a lot of time doing that. So the time is minimal compared to my other hobbies and wants, but I would say, 10 hours a week, 10, 15 hours a week. Thank you.
Okay. Elaine?
Obviously, none of us anticipates that these are going to be full-time jobs because they don't provide compensation for people not to have other work in the world that they need to do. I will say, I think I'm at a time in my life when I do have discretionary time and the ability to devote to this. I imagine that there would be some ebb and flow to that there are times of the year, budgeting time, when there might be a lot more preparation and reading that would have to happen than there are at other times. But I suspect that to be able to make good decisions and to participate well in the meetings, there would have to be several hours every week put into being able to read and to prepare and to be ready. I think there'll be some, how quickly one does that is going to vary from individual to individual, but I don't expect that this is going to be a job where one just is able to show up and have an opinion without having to look carefully at what we've got to consider.
Great, thank you. I will add at this point what I did last year. Charlie Green once told me he figured out he made almost 7 cents an hour on the time when he was working on the city council, and he rounded up to get to 7 cents. So, Elaine, for this question, number 7 is for you. A good amount of money and effort has been put into reworking the streetscape on Buford Highway within city limits. What do you see as the proper or best continued development of that area, and what do you see as the city's role in that?
In terms specifically of the area where we're building that gateway project on Buford Highway, I think all of us as a city want this to be an attractive area. I think we want the part of Buford Highway that belongs to the city of Norcross to be an attractive area on both sides. I do think that we're bound to honor contractual obligations with regard to what we may promise developers, and so we want to be very careful when we make promises, when we enter into contracts, that we're putting out there something that we feel like we are willing and want to stand behind. But I do think that that it's a deterrent to crime, it's a deterrent to many things that spoil the environment. If your house is clean, then people want to look in it, and I think that's important.
Thank you. David? Good question. A good amount of money and effort has been put into reworking the streetscape on Buford Highway within the city limits. What do you see as the proper or best continued development of that area, and what do you see as the city's role in that?
All right, thank you. The best continued development of Buford Highway to me, again, is once we get we've got the library coming. Again, thank you, Bucky, for the library, Bucky Johnson Library. We've got the new development going here. We've given away everything except for the kitchen sink to get this development in here. So it is going to be our nucleus, and we're going to take off. So from that point on, we've used the DDA real effectively. The DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, for those of you that don't know it, is basically an outside entity, believe it or not, of the city. So they're kind of a legal loophole. They can buy and sell property, and then we can do an intergovernmental agreement with them, and we can fund it, and it just gives us a lot better control over doing something like that. It makes it a lot easier on us. So if we're working good with a Downtown Development Authority, that's what the city's role is as an elected official. Work with them, get this stuff going, keep it going, they'll bring in developers, we'll approve drawings, architectural review will say okay, planning and zoning will say okay, we'll have community meetings, but it's just a cumulative effort with the council, the mayor, the DDA, the staff, and of course the citizens for public hearings. We just need to keep this ball going and do what we can on Beaufort Highway. Again, love departments on Beaufort Highway would be awesome. Thank you.
Elaine?
I believe that I already answered that.
I realize that. I enjoyed your answer so much, I wanted to hear it again. I think David answers this one first. This is number 8. Thank you for your patience. Please tell us a few ways that we can continue to improve the quality of life for all residents of the city.
Well, that would be, I'm sure there are multiple definitions for quality of life, but, again, we want to keep it safe and clean in Norcross. That's what we do. We want property values to go up, so that's part of quality of life. To keep it safe, clean, and property values going up, we have to watch what we're doing. We have to maintain what we have. We've got to be careful at the budget time and the millage rate that we have enough money to cover our increased expenses every year. So it's kind of a balancing act. It's just like running a business. And to be honest, to me, the council is like the board, the citizens are the stakeholders, and our city manager is the president. So it trickles down. Y'all tell us what to do. We do what we think is best. We invest and we do what we can with development. Hopefully your home values go up. Everything's nice and clean, and that's pretty much what we shoot for. Thank you.
Please tell us a few ways that we can continue to improve the quality of life for all residents of the city.
I think maybe the way the council is best going to impact that is in their role as policymakers, that it's important for the council to establish the policies that create the structure within which those kinds of quality of life things can emerge. But I also think another really important partner in that, and maybe as important, if not more important in that, are the citizen committees that we have that are able to take the gifts and the talents of the people who live here and to look at if you're interested in sustainability or trees or parks or historical markers. If all of those array of things that make our life better are run by the citizens that have remarkable gifts to bring to the table to help that happen. So I think the council role is in setting the policies and structures to make that possible, and to be able to be empowering of citizens and helping them to find their place to weigh in and to work as partners.
Great. Question number 9. Number 9. Thank you. One circle there. This is for Elaine. Many municipalities have moved to 4-year terms for city council positions. Norcross continues to have 2-year terms. Please tell us which term length you support and why. And if you still have time left, please let us know what you think about term limits for elected Norcross officials.
I personally feel that 4-year term limits or 4-year term is the way to go. The reason for that is that life is very complex these days, and it takes a certain amount of time for any newly elected official to be able to tool up, to be able to be effective in the job that they're being asked to do. I don't have a problem with term limits because I feel like that continues to re-energize our council and allow people who maybe have moved into our community or who just have a different way of seeing it to emerge and be able to take leadership. And I trust that our pool is deep enough that there will always be good candidates from which to choose. Having said that, I also feel strongly that no one who's running for election should be able to benefit from a change in term limits. If you've been elected for a 2-year term, then you need to serve a 2-year term, and a 4-year term doesn't come into play until someone is specifically elected to that.
Okay, David?
Can you repeat that? I know it was a 2-part question.
Yes, many municipalities have moved to 4-year terms for city council positions. Norcross continues to have 2-year terms. Please tell us what term length you support and why. And if you still have time left, this is a little odd to ask you this, please let us know what you think about term limits for elected Norcross officials.
I'll start with term limits.
Okay.
We've got 2-year term limits. I mean, every 2 years, you can vote me out or you can keep me, so that's a term limit. You know, it's up to the people. We need a law that says you can only serve 10 years to get that on. If you're doing a good job, and you're doing great, people have confidence in you, there's your term limit. So, no, I don't support a mandated big brother term limit. Citizens are here, and if David does a bad job, every 2 years you get a chance to vote me out. So I'm happy with that setup. I do support the 2 year. I like the 2 years now, and I'll tell you this: as I don't want to call myself a politician, as an elected official, I would love to have 4-year terms. It would be awesome. I come here and I could, you know, play la la land for 3 years and work hard 1 year before the election and get reelected. But we've got 2-year terms, and we have to stay on the ball for 2 years, and we have to keep staying on the ball. When we get in the middle of a project like Buford Highway, it makes us want to keep running because we've always got something going on. So I don't think we need 4-year term limits just because every other city in Georgia has it. I just don't think we need it. As an elected official, please give me 4 years. But as a citizen, sitting there voting on my elected officials, I'll take a 1 year or 2 year. You know, if they're not good, get them out. Pierre did in 2 years. When Pierre ran, he said, you know, what can I get done in 2 years? I said, what do you want to get done? What's the one thing you want to get done? He said, historic preservation. He got it done in 2 years. So you can get stuff done in 2 years. And it gives citizens a lot more control, and it is a permanent. Thank you.
Thank you. That was question number 9, so we're at halftime. We're now going to have a brief performance by the Norcross Marching Band, who's not here, unfortunately, so we're going to continue along. It's strange they wouldn't be here. Marching band is out? The leader is out. Yeah, I'm not speaking right now. All right, question number 10 goes to David. How do you intend to communicate the actions of the City Council, as well as what ways do you expect to hear from your constituents?
Well, I hear from them when I go to Publix. I hear from them when I go to the gas station. I'm sitting there, and it took me a while to get my gas pump and get out of it. You know, we're on the street. We're a small community. You know, I'm not David running for Senate, and you're never going to see me again. I'm David that lives right here in Norcross, and I'm walking up and down the street, and I'm at the park with my kid, and I'm eating at the restaurants every weekend. So I see most of everyone. I've got, you know, we've all got Facebook now, so I've got the Facebook, the Snapchat, the Instagram. But it seems like Facebook is the way that most people like to stay in touch. But, you know, I give everyone a number. They can text me, they can call me. But for the most part, most of my communication is face-to-face. I don't go out of my towns too many weekends. I stay around, and I don't think I have a problem with communication and having folks approach me. Thank you.
Elaine?
I think that some of our council have expanded on the kind of face-to-face availability that we would expect from one another by planning in some intentional opportunities to expand that. I know that the walks with council have been one good way for that to happen. I know that there have been some other opportunities to gather and to talk about specific issues. And I would hope that we would continue to expand on that. If I'm elected to the council, I would be willing and want to have some regular opportunities to simply gather with citizens who care to come, to receive questions, to hear concerns that are had, and to be able to make some interpretive comments and maybe a little education about what's at stake and what's before the council. So I think the face-to-face and incidental with one another is good, that anyone who serves on this council is always doing that. But I think some intentionality might help us to communicate better and with less miscommunication when we have a major issue that we're trying to settle and solve.
Question number 11 starts with Elaine. Parking continues to be a major topic of discussion, and some residents are feeling that they've heard a number of proposals but have not seen any progress. Give us an idea as to what you think the solution might be to parking in the downtown area, and how long would you expect it to take to implement that solution?
I think the long-term solution is going to be to have a parking deck. I think we need that. I think our businesses need that. I think I know my own frustration when I come up here for something and can't find a place to put the car. I know we're in a study redo again. And one of the things I'd like to see us do is to be able to receive the good, hard data that we receive and then move forward with making the best decision that we believe that we can make. Because we're never going to make what everyone thinks is the perfect decision. Now, in the meantime, in the short term, I understand that the DDA is looking at some options that might get us to the point where a deck can be constructed. The 2 lots that are here below the community center, the being able to rework the gravel area over by the railroad to make that some better parking for us. But long term, we're going to have something that is a structure that allows us to have places for people to put cars, or we're not going to be able to sustain growth and energy as a city.
Thank you. David?
All right. I'll start with a little history. I told you that I've been to lots of classes in Georgia Municipal. When we first reformed our DDA, I went to quite a few DDA classes, and the parking issue came up. And I'll never forget the guy's statement. I've said it in Norcross 100 times. Norcross doesn't have a parking problem. Waycross, Georgia has a parking problem. There's nobody parking in Waycross, Georgia. Okay, so that's a parking problem. We've got parking going on everywhere. We're booming, we're busting. We do have splosh dollars again that are helping build this parking deck on Beaufort Highway. We don't have access to that parking deck about half the time, and half the time the residents will have it. We've also got in our splosh funds to build another parking deck. We've just got to decide where we're going to do it. So parking deck seems to be the answer for future parking. The question is where to put it. At one time we were going to put it over here, and which I think is an excellent idea, right next to where this parking lot is here. We've got upper and lower elevation streets, and that'd be a great place. And my wannabe list would be the glass exchange, or the engine exchange over on the other side of the auto parts store would be another excellent place for a parking garage. The elevation again is a good layout for it with the lower, upper, middle streets. So we need a parking garage. We've got splash funds. We've got DDA working on it. We'll get there. Thank you.
Okay, this question is for you, David, initially. Parking aside, those outside the process sometimes feel that the wheels of government move somewhat slowly. Please share, and I toned that question down, I will tell you. Please share any ideas you have regarding ways to keep topics addressed and policy moving forward in a timely manner.
Well, I don't want to say that ain't going to happen, but I concur. Government moves so slow. I run my own business, folks. I wake up in the morning at 6. I hit ground running. When I tell Joe to do something, he does it, and Jack does it. When I bark orders, it gets done. Any day, everybody has to clap hand and go home. That's not the way it works in the city. It took me about 3 years to figure that out. And I don't see any fixing it. We can try, and we can say we can do it, but, you know, it takes us 4 years to put a sidewalk on North Peach Street. It's ridiculous. Why does it take 4 years? Because everybody wants it done a different way. And we've got to get different plans. And we've got to do this. Another example is the waterworks building. You know, we've had this beautiful green space that we bought with a building in front of it. Now, we're going to keep the building, tear it down. We don't know. It takes years to do this because everybody's got their own opinion, and we have to do different studies, and we have to use, you know, just because David said do it, but it gets done. We've got a lot of laws that take place, and we've got to follow the guidelines. So I don't think there's any speeding up government, I'm sorry to say. It's just the way it is. We're going to keep used to it. Okay, thank you.
Elaine?
I've been one of those people who has sometimes felt frustrated at how slowly things can seem to move. There's a saying that the perfect can be the enemy of the good. And sometimes I think that we continue to try to find the perfect solution that is going to keep everyone happy. And I don't think organizations can do that. I think what we have to do is we have to weigh hard data, and we have to then make the best decision that we can make and move forward based on what we believe is for the best good of the whole. There will always be some people who will be frustrated by what the decision was or was not. But I think sometimes we're our own enemy when we try to find not just consensus, but unanimity on issues where I don't think we will find that kind of unanimity. And I think it slows us down.
Okay, question number 13. Well, I've certainly had my run-ins with the Norcross Police Department. I generally hear very positive reviews of their performance. Please tell us some ways that the city might be able to better support the force, especially as technology advances at such a rapid pace and we face ever more complicated safety challenges. Elaine.
I think that we support our police force by being sure that they are well-equipped, by being sure that our city government manager works to have the best of all possible personnel. I have appreciated our police department. There are not many places where you can live, where you can go on vacation and say, hey, we're going to be gone out of town. Do you mind just riding down the street some extra times? And have someone say, sure, I'll be glad to do that. So I think we do a good job of supporting our police department. I would not want us to support our police department in anything less than the level that's necessary for them to do the job they do to ensure public safety in Norcross. And I think now that code enforcement is more connected with the police department, that those same things go also with code enforcement in the county.
David? I'm not going to give the lead in that didn't get the laugh that I thought. No, I'm going to say that. While I've certainly had my run-ins with the Norcross Police Department.
That's what I'm doing. I got this.
That's all you needed. Thanks.
I'm last humble on you. All right. The officers here to hear that. We've got on the court.
I think it's because it's not from.
One parking.
The Norcross Police Department is a very well-equipped department. We used to, when I joined the council, we were sending officers to Forsyth, Georgia, to the academy. It was costing $16,000 a piece. We were doing that at least 3 times a year. We were taking volunteers off the street, out of the hospital, sending them to the police academy, coming back. We've got such a good police department nowadays that we've got guys coming from the city of Atlanta, Gwinnett County, Forsyth, everywhere. We've got people begging to be in the Norcross Police Department. It's a very desirable position. We're paying them good. We pay probably the best or close to the best. The start salary is incredible. We did an adjustment last year, and we got it up there. So we're very well covered on that. As far as supporting them, we've been trying to get cameras in the parks for 3 years, maybe 4 years. The chief comes up, and every year we just can't find the money. We can't find the money. We don't have the money. We'll take care of it next year. We may start it next year and then finish it the following year. Well, this year, I drew the line. Like, I'm tired of this having to wait. We're going to spend this $350,000, and we are going to do this, and the council went with me. So, and we're getting the cameras. So we've got to do that. We've got to support our police department. We've got to give them equipment when they ask for it. We've got to give them the best salaries we can give them. We've got to give them the best cars we can give them, and that's what we've got. We've got safety first. Thank you.
Okay. Number 14, David answers first. Norcross faces stiff competition from neighboring cities for attracting development, businesses, and cultural opportunities. How would you position the city vis-a-vis other cities in the region?
I'll tell you, I'll start with a little bit of a story. I think we're in a pretty good position. I do work all over Metro Atlanta. Folks, I'm not making this up. I did a job in Dunwoody 2 days ago. I always tell people I'm talking about Norcross. And I told him, I said, man, you should move to Norcross. He goes, I can't afford to move to Norcross. This guy lives in Dunwoody. I hear it from people in Peachtree Corners. I hear it from people in Roswell. I'd love to live in Norcross. I just can't afford to live in Norcross. They come here and they eat. I did a job for a guy 3-4 years ago that lives in Roswell. They've got the best parks in the United States. He comes to Norcross every morning and walks Norcross. I asked him, I want to see him. I said, hey, why don't you move here? I can't afford it. So we may be losing. We may not have a farm. We may not be building a bridge across Peachtree Industrial or a parking deck where they were going to put a bunch of apartments. We may not be doing that, but we've got what they want. We're what they desire. They're not what we desire. We don't need to change. Builders do come to us. When they come to us, they know they're not just going to come in and say, boom, 400 apartments, and we give it to them. Sugar Hill and Swanee are doing 800 apartments each. We're not doing that. We control our development, back to control. So we're doing pretty good. We're very desirable. Everybody wants to be in Norcross, and we need to all applaud ourselves for that. Thank you.
Elaine?
Well, I think that Norcross in many ways set the bar for some of what we have seen the other small cities around us begin to do. I think there's a lot of that kind of ethos and feel that we actually had first. I don't think it's a competition between one city or another city. I think we have to focus on doing what feels right for us as the city of Norcross. that we need to be able to own being something that is unique among other successful cities that surround us. To be realistic, we do have to be able to be competitive. We have to be competitive for business, and that means the kinds of businesses like restaurants and bars and things that may support our neighbors wanting to stay home and participate here. But we also have to be able to be competitive and attractive to the kinds of industry that's going to allow us to have the revenue streams that we need to have. And so I don't think we compete for the sake of competing with another city. I think we have to take seriously being who we are and being competitive to attract the things that we know we need to attract to be moving forward.
Thank you. Elaine, question number 15. What things would you do to inspire and promote a sense of one Norcross?
I think I would go back to what I said earlier about opportunities for people to actually gather face to face and to learn something about one another. I think we don't become one Norcross unless I can know where you live and who your children are and where you go to school and those kinds of things. So the more effort we expend in genuinely getting to know one another, the better I think we'll be at being one Norcross. I think we've made the broad brush sweeps that get something like that started. But if we want genuine community, then we're going to have to take the next step, and we're going to have to risk really getting to know one another.
David?
I'm a little bit lost on the one Norcross thing. I'm not sure what that is. Are we talking about one community? Are we talking about diversity? Or are we just talking about one group?
If I had to guess, I would say that the questioner felt that there was one side of Norcross and another side of Norcross.
All right, I was wondering that. I didn't think of that. So, wow, how can we become one Norcross? Well, you know, again, I think this park is, if that's what we're looking for, is a magnet for the other side of Norcross. It draws them in, the concerts draw them in, the festivals draw them in. I believe we are becoming one Norcross. We're in the process, thank you to Andrew, of doing a walking trail down Mitchell Street to one of the biggest parks we're going to have in Norcross over on Brook Hollow and I can't think of the name of the complex, but we're doing this $3 million park over there. We're having a walking trail that connects to it and comes back downtown. So that's part of becoming one, if that's your definition. I believe we'll get there. And more parks, more walking trails, splash money again. Let's go back and say apartments one more time. That's going to bring everybody in. Thank you.
David, you can get the first shot at this one. During a recent PDC meeting, the city manager of Lawrenceville talked about extensive efforts his city made, including payments to moving businesses and special lease arrangements to relocate some businesses in order to clear the way for some of their redevelopment projects. Do you think that this is something that Norcross should consider or be doing? If so, what businesses might you want to relocate and why? If not, why not?
Was this the city manager? What's his name? Worthington, that's it. I'm sorry, I was thinking Emory, but I knew it wasn't Emory. Okay, yeah, one the same. It was Chuck. Okay. Well, you know, we're not Lawrenceville, we're not Decatur, we're not Peachtree Corners, we're Norcross. You know, we've got a DDA that helps us with things like this. It helps us relocate businesses. It helps us bring in new businesses. We've got economic development that helps that. That's not a whole lot that, as an elected official, well, I mean, we'll approve and deny their recommendations, but that's really more, in my opinion, more of a DDA issue. I'm not crazy about picking businesses up or condemning property or moving people. I much prefer the free market prevail on that one. Thank you.
Okay.
As we think about how to deal with Buford Highway, it may be necessary for us to think about creative ways to partner with the people who do have businesses there and to help them find a place to continue to have viable business when they occupy property that's needed for us to be able to move forward. But I don't think that solutions that work in Lawrenceville are just easily transplanted to Norcross. And so I would want to know which property and for what reason. I do think that the DDA is certainly more than a way to get around things and a loophole. I think it's an important way for communities to be able to do some of the things it needs to do in a way that is possible, because there aren't as many regulations about what needs to be made public. And when you're talking about real estate and real estate deals and working with that sort of thing, there's a limit to how much can be public and have it still be able to be functional. So I agree that the DDA is very important.
Next to last question, Elaine, we go to you first. We continue to see cities in the area expand through annexation, and as a result, there are less and less areas available for annexation. What is your position on annexation as a way to grow the city? And if you are interested in annexation, the fifth time I've used that word, what areas would be on your short list?
One of the things that I'm realizing as I'm answering these questions is that a lot of what comes up for me is very much dependent on contextualization. To say pro-annexation or anti-annexation when you don't know what you're annexing, to me doesn't make any sense. We would have to look at that. I do think that as we expand from out Jimmy Carter and toward 85, that there are pockets of property there that it might make sense for us to bring into the city for development purposes and for purposes of being able to just have control over how those properties are expanded and used. So that would be the direction I would be looking. But I would not be able to make a blanket statement that I'm for it or I'm against it unless I know what property, under what circumstances, and for what reason.
David?
All right, annexation. Again, I'm with Elaine. I'm not going to say I'm for or after or for or against until I see what's before me. I'm probably more of a negative, but when you look at an annexation, you have to know what property you're taking. Are you taking a commercial, industrial, or are you taking a residential? Because commercial and industrial is going to produce income. We call it the golden goose. That's where you're going to get your proceeds from, and those are going to try to take care of the residential. So I think I was on the council back in 05, maybe 06. We did an annexation. I didn't even know, we never done an annexation. We did an annexation thanks to Johnny Lawler, Jimmy Carter, and Atlantic, and it was all commercial except for one lady, Miss Coker, lived up on a hill, and where FedEx is now. So that was an excellent annexation. It brought in at the time, a lot of money back then. Was $450,000 a year additional in our tax base. Now I'm sure it's double that because we've got water, utility, and everything. So annexations to me are based on what are you bringing in? Are you bringing in commercial or industrial, residential, and how big an area? And short-term annexation goal that I would have would be the immediate other side of Jimmy Carter. If we could take the other side of Jimmy Carter, even just the road frontage, that gives us enforcement issues, enforcement rights as far as police and code enforcement, and it just cleans it up. So short-term, I would take the commercial from on the other side of Jimmy Carter from Peachtree Industrial to 85. Thank you.
All right, we're up to question 18, the final question, and I decided to repeat the final question we used at last year's debate because it was such a big hit. See, a lot of people remember. So that we get to know you a little better. David, you go first on this one. Please tell us about a meaningful or inspirational person or event in your life.
Wow. Well, my wife's sitting there, so I had a twin brother. Everybody knows I had a twin brother. And he was lost to cancer. But my wife's been there for me, so she's my inspiration. You may or may not know, I'm not trying to gain points by this. I went through cancer a year or two ago, and she was there for me. So that's my inspiration. Thank you.
Elaine?
I think there are a lot of people that I could name that have been inspirational for me at points along the way. The one that I would name most clearly at this particular point in my life is my daughter, who I have seen in the last few years grow into a really wonderful person. She is a coordinator for the Hall County Drug Court. She has a heart and an empathy for people who struggle and who are trying to find a way into recovery and a way to be able to change their lives and to do that for the good. She's also a mother and a wife and a person who's involved in her own community. And so as I've watched her grow, she has become more and more an inspiration to me. And I think that's one of the many people that I would name at this point.
Thank you. We are now up to closing statements, and those 3-minute closing statements will be delivered in this sequence. David McLeroy goes first, and Elaine Puckett second.
Okay, before you start the clock, I just want to pick up on that last question.
You are welcome to add use part of your 3-minute closing statement.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. Ric Flair is always inspiring me. Kiss, stealing, wheeling, dealing, limo riding, jet plane flying, some gun. I like that guy. Anyway, closing statement. Okay. Here's another one for you. There's this country song that says, "Oh, David," this is about another guy. I'll use my name. But David, he's a pretty good dude, a little rough around the edges with an attitude. That's what I am. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm going to give you a yes or no. I'm not often going to give you a maybe. I'm not often going to send you off with false hopes and false, doubts. I'm going to tell you where it is. I'm going to chop the wood, and I'm going to let you know where it's at. So that's one thing I will tell you. When you ask me a question, you're going to get the real answer. You're not going to get it sugar-coated. One advantage, I think, for me, it comes down to who do you think can serve the city the best. Obviously, I think I can, and Elaine thinks she can, and we've agreed that whichever gets elected, the other will assist. So we've got a good thing going here. Either way, Norcross will come out good. I've got lots of experience. I've got lots of sitting down with developers. I've got lots of executive sessions. I've learned how to roll with the punches. When a sometimes developers will call me up and they'll say, "What do you think? Do you think we can get away with 50 units on Jimmy Carter Boulevard and blah, blah, blah?" And I'll just say, no. They're not going to call me and say, and I'm going to say, "Let me see what I can do about that." I'm going to give them a yes or no. So there's an advantage there to having someone that's been on the council this long that developers or investors can call and get a straight answer before they waste their time and their money or the city's time and their money and move forward. I think that home values are a major issue. When I was elected in Norcross, people were just raising Cain about the police. We weren't clean and the home values weren't going up. Well, our home values are excellent, and part of the excellence is the city government and all of our committees and all of our citizens and all of our input. So home values in Norcross are great, and they're going up. I think having an experienced council on there is an advantage to that. And sometimes we have critical emergency decisions. I think my experience is good in those points. When we have an executive session, maybe there's a lawsuit, and I'm pretty well versed on most of the laws. Or if we have here's just an example. Here's a hypothetical. If a builder comes to us and part of our negotiation is we'll give you up to $500,000 for landscaping and parking. Well, my definition of up to $500,000 is not $500,000. We can give you $10. All right, so that's the way I am with developers. I'm looking out for your money. I'm not looking out for their money. With that said, I would like a few more minutes, but I think I've got 20. I thought we had 4 minutes here.
3 minutes for the closing statement, 4 for the opening statement.
All right, well, I'm out of time, so I'll let it go.
Okay, thank you. Elaine?
What I would want to reiterate is that I do think that we bring different skill sets to the table. People have asked me why now, why this campaign now, and my answer to that has been that this seems to be the right time in my life for me to take this on. I do believe I can bring a fresh perspective to the council. I do believe that we are overdue for a woman's perspective on the council. I commit, as I've said, to being present, being prepared, and trying to support the policies that need to be supported, having engaged in assessment and in hard data in order to make decisions so that we can continue to move forward. One of the things that I think is most important about a place like Norcross is to understand that community is not a geography. Community is people. It's all of the people that are part of this city. And so I would pledge to you that I would work to find ways to help us get to know one another, to engage the gifts and graces that all of the community can bring to the table, and to make the best decisions for the common good. Sometimes we're faced with the desire to make decisions because of the personal memories that we have. Sometimes we're faced with making the decisions because of the historical value of a piece of property or a building or something that's going on. At the end of the day, I think what we have to do is we have to look at that along with the hard data about what's the best decision that we can make. And then we have to have the courage to move on and to vote for the things that truly serve the common good of the community. And that's what I would pledge to do.
Thank you. That is it.